Samantha sighed dramatically, stirring her coffee, her perfectly manicured fingers tracing circles along the rim of her cup. Across from her, I sat back, relaxed, watching her with the mild curiosity of a man who had already seen the end of a movie everyone else was still watching. "I think we need a break," she announced, her tone carefully calculated, like a performer delivering her lines just right. Her hazel eyes flicked up at me, waiting, expecting, to see the shock, the panic, the desperate scramble for control. I took a sip of my coffee, savoring it for a beat longer than necessary. Then, I set my cup down and met her gaze. "Good idea," I said, voice smooth, unwavering. Samantha blinked, thrown off her rhythm. She recovered quickly, leaning forward. I don't want to break up, just some space, you know?" She tilted her head, lips curving in that small, knowing smile, the one she always wore when she thought she was holding all the cards. A break, right? I knew the game. It wasn't about space. It was about keeping one foot in while testing the waters elsewhere. I wasn't stupid. Samantha loved control. She wanted to see me panic, to watch me prove my devotion, to beg for something I didn't even want anymore. I smiled, slow and deliberate. "Yeah, I get it. Some space. Sounds perfect." Her fingers tightened slightly around her cup. "Wait. You're okay with this?" "Completely." I pulled out my phone, tapped a few times, and held it up for her to see. The confirmation email for my vacation glowed on the screen. First-class ticket, oceanfront villa, pure, unapologetic luxury. She frowned. "What's that?" "My flight." "For what?" "For my space." The silence stretched between us, thick with unspoken words. Samantha's mouth opened slightly, then closed, as if she were recalculating her approach. "You're leaving?" I nodded. "Booked it this morning." Her expression flickered, an instant of something raw before she masked it. "You don't even want to talk about this? Work through things?" I shrugged, reaching for my coffee again. "You wanted space? I'm giving it to you." "But I didn't mean." I checked my watch, then stood, tossing a few bills on the table. "No hard feelings, Sam. Enjoy your break." Then I walked out, leaving her sitting there staring after me, her expression finally cracking as realization set in. 2 days later, my first vacation post-Samantha began. The ocean stretched endlessly in front of me, the sun dipping low, turning the sky into a watercolor masterpiece. A cocktail sat in my hand, condensation dripping down the glass. And next to me, Sophia laughed. Effortless, genuine, nothing like the manufactured drama I had left behind. Then, my phone buzzed. "Samantha," I smirked, lifting my drink in a silent toast to the universe. Showtime. I stretched out on the lounge chair, the sun warm against my skin, the salty breeze carrying the faintest scent of coconut from my drink. It had been 2 days since I last saw Samantha, and as I took another slow sip of my cocktail, I could already picture her sitting at home, phone in hand, scrolling through my Instagram in disbelief. She had expected me to fall apart, to fight for her, to beg. Instead, I had vanished, leaving nothing but unanswered messages and the quiet realization that she was not as irreplaceable as she had once believed. The first text had come in that morning. Wow, that was quick. I smiled when I saw it, amused by the weight those 5 words carried. They weren't casual. They weren't light, no, they were laced with disbelief, irritation, maybe even a little jealousy. Because what Samantha had thought would be her grand dramatic moment had instead turned into my exit cue, and she wasn't handling it well. I left the message unread. There was no need to respond. Silence was louder than anything I could say. Instead, I leaned back, watching as Sophia emerged from the ocean, water glistening against her sun-kissed skin, her laughter carried by the breeze. She wasn't playing games. She wasn't looking for leverage. She was simply here, enjoying the moment. That was the difference between her and Samantha. Sophia took the lounge chair next to mine, wrapping a towel around herself before reaching for her own drink. She caught me watching her and smirked. "You've been grinning to yourself for the last 5 minutes. Should I be concerned?" I shook my head, chuckling, just appreciating the view. She raised an eyebrow, clearly unconvinced. "That, or your ex just texted you." I let out a small laugh, finally glancing at my phone again. Another message from Samantha had come through. "Did you seriously just leave? No conversation, no nothing? You're really acting like this doesn't matter to you." Oh, it mattered, just not in the way she wanted it to. I turned my phone face down on the table and looked at Sophia. "You ever deal with someone who thought they were running the game, only to realize too late that they were just a pawn in someone else's?" She took a sip of her drink, considering. "Not exactly. But I've seen enough people try to manipulate their way through relationships. It's always the ones who think they have the upper hand who fall the hardest. I nodded. Yeah. And right now, she's falling. Samantha had assumed I would react the way every other guy in her past had. Clinging, chasing, trying to prove I was worth keeping. But I didn't have anything to prove. And that was driving her insane. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, my phone buzzed again. Another text. Jason, this is ridiculous. Can we just talk? There it was. The shift. The first crack in her confidence. Samantha wasn't angry anymore. She was confused, uncertain. Because I hadn't just agreed to the break, I had erased myself from her life entirely. No pleading, no second chances, just gone. I could already imagine her sitting in her perfectly curated apartment, staring at the screen, waiting for the dots to appear, waiting for me to take the bait. But I wouldn't. Instead, I leaned forward, picked up my phone, and did what I should have done long ago. Blocked her. Samantha's chapter in my life was officially closed. Sophia looked over at me, curiosity flickering in her gaze. Something satisfying just happened, didn't it? I smirked, setting my phone down for good. You could say that. And with that, I raised my glass, clinked it against hers, and let the night unfold. The first thing Samantha did when she realized I had blocked her was check my Instagram. I knew it. I could almost see her, sitting on her couch, legs curled up, phone gripped tightly in her manicured hands, her expression shifting from irritation to disbelief as she scrolled through my feed. There it was, post after post of me on a sun-drenched beach, drink in hand, completely unbothered. And beside me, Sophia, effortlessly radiant, flashing a smile that wasn't forced for social media approval but purely in the moment joy. Samantha's breath probably caught in her throat when she saw the picture, the one with me and Sophia on the yacht, the waves glistening behind us, her hand resting lightly on my arm as if she had been there all along. It wasn't a staged picture. It wasn't a revenge post. It was simply life, moving forward, without her. That was the moment it hit her. I could tell by the way my mutual friends started liking my posts, people who had once been part of our social circle, now quietly showing support for my newfound happiness. Word travels fast, and Samantha? She was learning in real time that I wasn't just okay. I was better than okay. She tried reaching out through alternate accounts. First a casual, fake-friendly follow request, denied. Then a text from a random number, Jason, we should talk. No, we shouldn't. Sophia noticed me smirking at my phone and nudged my arm. Let me guess, she teased. The ghost of vacations past? I chuckled, shaking my head. She's trying to crawl back in. Sophia tilted her head, studying me. And how do you feel about that? That was the thing. I didn't feel much of anything. There was no anger, no resentment, no desire to rub my happiness in Samantha's face. The only emotion that flickered through me was mild amusement, because at the end of the day, Samantha had assumed she was irreplaceable. But the world kept spinning, and I had moved on with it. That night, as I stretched out on the hotel balcony, the moon casting silver light over the waves, my phone buzzed again. One final message. I didn't think you'd actually forget about me this fast. I guess I was wrong about you. I stared at the text for a moment, then exhaled, shaking my head. Samantha was still trying to control the narrative, still hoping to frame herself as the victim, the one who had been abandoned. But the truth was simpler. She had handed me an exit, and I had taken it without hesitation. I locked my phone, set it down beside my drink, and let the night breeze wash over me. Samantha wasn't wrong about me. She was just too late to realize who I had been all along. Samantha wasn't done. The first wave of messages had been laced with irritation and passive aggression. The second wave, confusion. But now, as the reality of her miscalculation sank in, desperation began creeping into her words. She tried everything. Jason, I just want to talk. Can we be mature about this? I let the message sit. No response. I don't get why you're acting like this. We were together for years. Doesn't that mean anything to you? It had meant something. Once. But now the only thing it meant was that I had wasted too much time entertaining someone who thought she could manipulate my emotions like a marionette on a string. And I was done dancing. Then she tried shifting the blame. I think it's pretty messed up how you moved on so fast. It's almost like you were waiting for an excuse to leave. That one made me laugh. Not because it was true, but because it was exactly the kind of logic someone like Samantha would cling to. In her world, I couldn't possibly be capable of making my own decisions. No, there had to be some grand scheme, some hidden agenda, because the alternative, that I had simply walked away and never looked back, was too much for her ego to handle. Sophia leaned over, glancing at my screen when she noticed my amused expression. "She's still at it?" I nodded. "Now I'm the villain," she smirked, sipping her cocktail. I had seen this pattern before. Samantha had spent years believing she was untouchable, that no matter what she could call the shots. She thought a break would keep me on standby, waiting for her to decide when she was ready to reconcile. What she hadn't realized was that I wasn't waiting for anything. I had simply removed myself from the game entirely. And she was spiraling. A few hours later, another text came through. "Jason, can we at least get closure?" Closure? Closure was her watching me live a life she no longer had access to. Closure was me sipping a drink on a beach while she sat in her apartment, wondering where it all went wrong. Closure was understanding that, for the first time, she had lost control. And that was something I had no intention of giving her. I locked my phone, stretched my arms behind my head, and exhaled deeply. The sky was painted in deep purples and oranges, the waves crashing in a slow, rhythmic lull. Sophia glanced at me, an eyebrow raised. No reply? I chuckled, shaking my head. No need. Because some endings don't need words. Some endings speak for themselves. Samantha wasn't used to losing. That much was obvious. For years, she had been the one in control. The one who dictated how things ended, when they ended, and whether there was still room for someone to crawl back. But this time, there was no crawling back. No second chances. No grand reconciliation where she could rewrite history and pretend she had never tried to put me on hold like an old song she wasn't quite done with. And that realization? It was destroying her. The last message came late at night, long after the beach had emptied, long after I had finished another round of drinks with Sophia under the soft glow of tiki torches. The ocean hummed in the distance, waves rolling in and out, steady and unconcerned. Just like me. I didn't check my phone immediately. I already knew what it would say. When I finally picked it up, my assumption was confirmed. "I just don't understand how you can throw everything away like this. After everything we've been through, I thought you'd at least care enough to fight for me." There it was, the final attempt, the last play from a script she had written in her head, one where I was supposed to be broken, confused, lost without her. But reality didn't match her story. She had expected me to plead, to negotiate, to assure her that she was still the center of my universe. Instead, I had simply walked away. Sophia, sitting next to me, tilted her head, watching me skim the message. "Final attempt." I nodded. "She still thinks this is a conversation." Sophia smirked, swirling the straw in her cocktail. "You could give her one last response." I thought about it. About what she wanted. She wanted an explanation. A moment of weakness. A sign that some part of me regretted how effortlessly I had moved on. So I gave her none of that. Instead, I typed out the last message she would ever get from me. Didn't need a break, just needed you gone. I hit send, then blocked her number for good. No more messages, no more desperate attempts, no more questions that would never be answered. For the first time in a long time, I felt completely free. Sophia raised her glass, her eyes gleaming with quiet amusement. 2 fresh starts. I clinked my glass against hers, taking a slow sip, letting the moment settle. There was no anger in me, no lingering resentment. Samantha was nothing more than a chapter that had ended exactly as it was supposed to. As the night stretched on, I watched the waves pull back into the ocean, leaving smooth, untouched sand in their place. A perfect metaphor. Some things wash away and you never miss them when they're gone.